On Christmas Eve of 2024, I dropped this video titled Reading Snyder Cult Hate Comments. I dropped it assuming that, hey, it's Christmas Eve, I'm not going to get any action on it, might as well just throw something together just to keep a schedule going. And lo and behold, it became my most popular video. So that, of course, being said, we are 8 months removed from that. Superman has already dropped. I have seen it twice in theaters. And so people have thoughts, I have thoughts, and we're going to follow up on those Snyder Cult comments. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, buckle up. We're about to get into a sequel.
We're doing a sequel. We're back by popular demand. Come on, everybody, strike up the band. Sequel. That's what we do in Hollywood. And everybody knows that the sequel's never quite as good.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, I'm K Swope, and thank you for tuning into this video. Now, here's what's happening. As I mentioned, I made this video back, dropped it on Christmas Eve 2024, and I wasn't expecting much from it. It blew up for my channel, which is fantastic. And so, you know, I'm doing it again, not just because I want to do a sequel to it, because that would be nice, and this kind fellow commented that I should do a sequel, but also because I figured the movie's out already, and so now that it's out and we have more raw reactions, we can talk about it, and so I'm hoping to dive right into that. Plus, I will mention this too, like I said, I saw it, I actually marathoned every Superman movie building up to that one and did reviews for them as well. You can check those out if you'd like. I also reviewed this movie. Moral of the story, though, I will summarize it. Was it the best Superman movie? Not quite. Was it one of the best? Yes. Was it a good movie? Absolutely. Did it meet my expectations? Unfortunately not. But I'm sort of in the middle on it. I think it was definitely a good movie. I don't think it was terrible. But if we reflect on the Zack Snyder stuff, I do love a lot of Zack Snyder's work. I'm not a Snyder cultist, at least I wouldn't call myself one, but I do appreciate some of the things, some of the liberties that he took on those films. So just putting my stance out there right here, right now, in case that was not clear. What we're going to do, I found this tweet. It's a repost of a video. We're going to look at it. We're going to watch it. It is a video, and I'm probably going to skim through it, edit it a little bit, but you'll get the gist, and then I'm going to read some of the comments from it because I figured this is a great place to start and to look into some tweets. So, that being said, let's watch together.
This is the Superman that we need. This is the S. I hate this S. I can't even look at this crap. I'm sorry, boys. I love you. This is not about you. I like crypto, but guilty by association. Crap. Hashtag super. All we have now is the what's come before and the comic books. I'm fine with that. I'm sticking with it. You know, of course, I was making a cape. There's a cape. There's the S I made. I think I did a pretty good job. Whatever. I don't need it. This is my S. This is my cape. I don't need a new one.
All right, so the first tweet we see here is one where someone says, movie was all right, but it wasn't a Superman movie. The movie was a Justice Society movie that was missing a bunch of context. Bad start to what is supposed to be a new cinematic universe. So, I disagree. It's definitely not a Justice Society movie. I don't know where they even got the Justice Society idea from, other than maybe that mural that everyone was talking about that was in the Hall of Justice. I do partially agree with this, though, because one of my biggest complaints about this film was that it's just felt a little like they were kind of jumping into things, and they didn't really establish very much. And I also saw, you know, Fantastic Four, the new one that just came out, and I really, really liked that one. And they did something in that film that I think would have helped this one out a lot. And without telling a full origin story, they basically just had a really brief recap, was going over, hey, Fantastic Four, this happened to them. They fought a few villains, and now they're here, 4 years out from them being established. They didn't really tread the whole origin story. The context was there was like a TV special being made for the Fantastic Four, and in it, the build-up to their live appearance on the show was going to be that little, you know, like 5 or so minute blip, and so it was great for building context. They don't need to tell the whole origin story. They don't need to do another origin story movie. I get that. I do wish we had a little more of that in Superman. We had opening text crawl. That was fine. But either way, I mean, like, it wasn't a Superman movie, though. That I have a problem with, because it absolutely was a Superman movie. I mean, no doubt about it. I mean, David Cornsweet, probably my favorite Superman, not going to lie. He was great, brought a great energy. He just seems like a really nice, kind of wholesome guy generally as well. He basically is the character, which is always kind of a nice thing, because then it's like you don't have to act as much, because then you're just being yourself in the role. And so I think that always pans out for the better when it comes to, you know, a performance in a film, especially playing a pre-established character. That's always really, really nice. All right, so I've jumped back actually to the original post I pulled a lot of my comments from in the first video. That being James Gunn's posting of the, I think it was the teaser trailer, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe it was the first full trailer. I don't remember. If you watched the video before, you know what I'm talking about. Go watch that if you haven't. That's gonna be very useful. But this one guy says, well, that sucked. Congratulations on making Superman a defensive child. I don't know where that guy's coming from, because I really don't see that in the movie. Now, like I said, I can lob some criticism at it, but that's not something I can actually, you know, criticize. Does not make any sense to me. Alrighty, so one butthurt guy says, unpopular but correct opinion. Man of Steel is far more superior than Superman. Now, I got some questions here. First question being, grammatically, is far more superior? That does sound good. I would recommend, though, if I was typing this myself, I would just say is far superior to Superman. That's kind of how I would say it, less wordy. I don't know if that's just me. Anyways, I digress. Ultimately, what this guy's saying is he's giving his opinion. I think the problem with a lot of these Snyder cultists now at this point, now the movie's come out, is it's objectively a decent movie, okay? Like, again, I didn't absolutely love it. I was a little disappointed, to be completely honest. I mentioned that before. But either way, I can still admit that it was a good movie. And I think the problem is a lot of these Snyder cult people don't have much ground to stand on now, because people are loving the new Superman movie and not so much the old one. And so I almost feel like they're kind of retreating. Now, I'm not saying Man of Steel is bad. I am saying, though, that Superman, in my opinion, is better than Man of Steel. I don't think it's better than some of Snyder's other work that he's done. Like, I know this is going to sound insane. I love Batman vs. Superman. I love his version of Justice League. I like both of those movies over the new Superman, okay? But that does not mean I think the new Superman is bad. I do think this movie is better than the film of Man of Steel, to be honest. All right, now here's an opinion that I actually care about. Okay, this is someone I care about. Ashen Flash, okay, one of my favorite Lego YouTubers. Yes, I have favorite Lego YouTubers. He brings up an interesting point. This whole adjusted for inflation thing with Man of Steel is such a joke. Using that logic, the original Superman movie from 1978 is the highest grossing with $1.4 billion. And I think he's got a good point, because I think the whole adjusted for inflation thing is a little ridiculous. We're living in different times. If Warner Brothers considers this a success, sure, let them consider it a success. That's a big debate I've been seeing throughout all this discourse. And I don't know anything about economics or anything like that, so I don't know how to even scratch the surface of this topic, but this might be as good a gateway as ever. I think the whole thing is kind of crazy and ridiculous. We got to stop comparing these things. I think that if Warner Brothers thinks it's a success, and it's a success enough to continue the James Gunn stuff, they're going to do that. And it seems like they have more or less confirmed that with everything we've seen going on. Peacemaker Season 2 is coming out. Looking forward to that. Creature Commando was also pretty successful. It seems like Warner Brothers is very happy with the way things went with this film, so they're, of course, going to keep going in that direction. Sorry, Snyder cultists, but this is not a win for you. All right, and here's one. To think that James Gunn pulled out all the stops and tried his very, very hardest for his Superman movie, and he still fell woefully short of Snyder's Man of Steel. I feel like at this point, the Snyder cult, it's all just opinion-based. I mean, they're looking at stuff. Yeah, you can say whatever about the numbers, okay, and the box office. That's fine and dandy. But again, Warner Brothers ultimately is the person who's going to determine whether it's a success or not, and they basically have already determined it is a success. You can whine and complain about it all you want, but that does not mean that they're not going to keep making more films in this version of the DC universe. And I am kind of looking forward to it. Was I a little disappointed by Superman? Yes. But I still like James Gunn a lot. I like the approach that he took to this film. Generally, I think that the tone was not super James Gunn-y, it's a little James Gunn, and it wasn't the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not the best Superman movie, in my opinion, but it's certainly not the worst. Far from it. And I do think it is much superior to Man of Steel. So here's another tweet I'm looking at here. It is a reply to the Hollywood Handle. It says, Superman just crossed that amount of money globally. Budget was blah, blah, blah. Read full review, blah, 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 blah. Okay, and this guy quotes it and says, congratulations, the hashtag Superman movie is still behind Man of Steel's box office. That is the only thing the Snyder cult has left, really, to cling to, is hope and box office numbers. And that's sad. And it's really sad, too, because of this. Because I am not a Snyder cultist. I said that before. But I did like a lot of what Zack Snyder did, okay? Would I think it'd be cool to see a continuation of his story? Yeah, sure. Do I want to see it at the expense, though, of this Superman stuff? No, I would not. And so that's kind of the problem, because there's a small percentage of fans out there that are really loud on the internet that are just making a bad name for everybody, and they just cannot get over this box office thing. Because Superman, don't get me wrong, it was a success, okay? We're living in a different time, different climate. Ever since the pandemic, our expectations for films and everything like that, they've definitely shifted. They've changed a lot. Now, we are, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years after the pandemic. I get that. I don't want to see you in the comments hating on me. But what I will say is, with that and streaming services, these were just kind of afterthoughts when it came. In fact, some of them weren't even thoughts at all when Man of Steel came out and stuff like that. So we're living in a very different time, very different culture, and box office numbers are still not what they used to be pre-pandemic, okay? So you got to look at the facts like that, okay? People have switched to streaming and alternative ways of consuming stuff. So the goalposts have indeed shifted, so we're not comparing apples to apples here. I'm not saying that in defense of the new Superman movie per se. I'm more saying it to tell you Snyder cultists out there, hey, you know, the fact that this movie did not make as much as Man of Steel in whatever ways you want to look at it, inflation, without inflation, domestic, non-domestic, whatever you call it, international, blah, 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 I really don't care. The point I'm trying to make here is we're not comparing apples to apples. We're not going to be able to compare apples to apples. As Ash and Flash brought up in the tweet we looked at before, if we adjust to inflation for the original Superman movie, it's making over $1 billion, okay? So you just can't do that because it doesn't make sense. We're living in so much different times. A lot has happened in the last, what has it been, 12 years since Man of Steel came out at this point. You can't have the same definitions of success. The definition, like I said, the goalposts, it's all shifted now, okay? So to wrap up this video, hopefully kind of neatly, it seems like the Snyder cult, the only legs they have to stand on are this box office thing at this point. There was a time where everyone could hope and dream and say, I don't think this is going to be good, this looks lame, blah, blah, blah. But the proof is in the pudding. The film is out and it's doing very, very successful. Warner Brothers is very happy with it, and it seems like there is no sign of them slowing down with what James Gunn is doing. And so I think, for myself, for my own taste, I could live with that. I think that's cool. I think I like that. I like the direction that he's going to take things. I think it is more what I come to expect from a comic movie and a DC comic movie and a Superman movie, to be quite honest, especially a Superman movie in the 21st century. Not that Man of Steel wasn't good in its own ways, but that this feels more true to the character, and so I'm happy to go with it. But, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you enjoyed that video, this follow-up. If you have not already, please hit that subscribe button. I'd love you to see more content I have. I do a lot of different videos, a lot of reviews. I'm trying to expand, do a little more videos. I've done some lists before, hoping to do some more things, kind of sort of like that, just something a little different where I can just kind of sit down and rant and gab. Even hoping to break into the video essay space a little bit here and there, so I'm very excited to be diving into that stuff. But hey, let me know what you guys want my opinions on next. I'll gladly hear that. If you are a, quote, Snyder cultist, I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you think. Is there anything that I said that doesn't hold water? I'm very curious. I mean, this is the internet. It's an open platform. Say whatever the heck you want. That's totally fine. But yeah, I will gladly hear out any opinions you guys want to toss my way. I do read the comments, so make sure you guys keep it in there. But in the meantime, ladies and gentlemen, I am K Swope. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one.